Okay folks, I wanted to give you an update on where we are with this bank of switches. This is the Mud Stuff single DIN 6 gang bank of switches, which is mountable very easily enough into the Mud Stuff roof console, which I've previously installed on here. I've got a blanking plate at the moment in it, pending completion of this. Now I'm hoping this bank of switches will control all of the accessories I need from the front of the vehicle. Now as you can see from left to right, these are currently illuminated. I can show you the rear of the bank of switches here with the associated pins. What I need to do is change out this earthing cable. This is the black cable that you can see. I've daisy chained them all together, which isn't a problem doing. However, what I haven't done is provided inputs for the completion of the circuit. So all I've done is daisy chain them all together. I actually need to do a loop, a splice, in order for an input. I will use fresh cable and show you how to do that though, to do it neatly. Just to run through the other pins, because these can be a bit of a headache to understand. These are the Carling switches, they're Contura 5. This top left pin, they class this as pin number 8. This is your 12 volt in, so the input of 12 volt in order to provide illumination of the icon at the top of the switches. The pin adjacent to that, to the top right, is the earth. The second pin down on the left hand side is your 12 volt power in. Now as you can see, I've got that hooked up to a 12 volt source at the moment. I have all of my cables labelled up for each one of these. So that's 12 volt power in. This third switch down is power out. So that's the feed for your accessory. However, if I activate one of the switches, you can see the amber illumination on what they call the telltale light. That informs you if the switch is activated. The power for that is provided by the power out, pin number 3, pin number 2 here, the third one down on the left hand side. Loop that, connect that to the last pin. Now this is the 12 volt in of the illumination here. So it takes power from the 12 volt in. Once the switch is turned on, it provides power to the amber light. And then what I've done is provided an output as well by splicing the cable, putting this connector on. So it's a single cable for both the 12 volt illumination and the output. So here's all my output cables. Here's all my input. The green one, as you can see, been daisy chained to the first top left pin of each switch, provides the illumination, the icons. Black is the earth, I'll be changing that today. These red ones coming on your left hand side are the outputs. Very important at this point to ensure that your cables are well organised and well labelled to avoid any confusion in the future. Take a bit of time, label them up to save you any confusion later on. First things first, I think disconnect the power source. I don't know what the proper tool for the job is for this, but trusty Leatherman. I don't need to be delicate about this because ultimately I'm replacing the whole thing. So if a crimp like that comes out, that's fine. Or disconnect, probably a better way of saying it. However, if this does come out, I can show you a really good way to daisy chain them. You see here, rather than cutting the cable and then crimping them together, if you splice and remove well, not splice per se, but if you just remove the protective sheathing, bend it over, and then crimp that together, that's far more effective. You retain much more of the structural integrity, or the integrity of the cable, and you're not joining two cables together. That's the important thing. And it's just much easier and much neater. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. I'm looking at. You know the way? I know the elements. There you go. Okay, here's my new cable. I have 18 gauge, 18 AWG, which I believe is at 0.75 mil squared, square mil. Don't know. Sufficient, I think. So I'm just going to approximately measure it out here. And then some. You'd rather have too much than too little. Rather be looking at it than for it. There we go. I can't reuse these because they've already been crimped to get some fresh new ones. The different colours in the spade terminals, they just relate to different diameters. Sometimes, even though I'm using the same diameter cable all the time, sometimes I can get it within the spade terminal easily enough, sometimes I can't. So it's good to have a selection. Again, you can get better crimpers than this, but I find it does the job perfectly fine. Okay, this will go on there. I'm sure there are much easier, better ways of doing this, however I've found. Move that. The easiest way of removing this bit of sheath, protective covering, whatever you want to call it, is with the Leatherman scissors. I'm sure a new Stanley blade would be better or easier in some ways, but I just find this does the job. I'm less likely to cut my hands to shreds as well. So that will attach there. The accessory earth or negative will come in with the female terminal. Attach that male terminal, female terminal, male terminal, female terminal, all the way to the end. There we go. So we'll connect to make sure it all fits okay, make sure everything's correct. Offer it up provisionally. Get all of the earths for any accessories as these male terminals. Preference as to one or the other, I did it as that just to more easily differentiate between the output from the switch and the input. That's the only reason. Left myself not the greatest amount of room on the tail end. What's that, about 10 inches maybe? 250 mil, maybe not even that, but it should be sufficient. Okay, so look, all looks okay. I'm going to offer it up permanently now. You saw how difficult it was to pull them off. Yeah, so fingers crossed it's all okay. Okay, that one bloody hurt. Just to note, you'll see here you've got a circle, and you'll see on the male terminals here you've got a raised spherical bit. When you push the female bit onto the male bit, that engages. And it creates a very solid connection. Okay, and there we go. I had to use one of these wider diameter terminals here. I just couldn't get it on one of these ones. There's no difference in the diameter or size of these terminals. It's merely for the input diameter of the cable. That's the only difference. So there we have it. What I will do is find something suitable to cover each one of these if they're being unused, so that there's no risk of one of these touching each other or one of these touching another part of the vehicle, so that they don't short out or that there's not a bad earth. If I don't have anything suitable, some heat shrink will be sufficient, or some electrical tape and heat shrink, but just something that there's an insulative barrier around the terminal. Okay, so there we have it. We're completely wired up. Mudstuff UK single DIN bank of switches ready for installation in the Mudstuff UK roof console. That will be the next video, folks. Thanks for watching. Hope it was useful.